Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today I'm at the Maker's Mark Distillery in Laredo, Kentucky. And here we have the great bourbon that is known for their square bottles with a red wax seal on top. And let's see how this bourbon is made. So I'm here at the delivery for all the grain, and the mash bill for Maker's Mark is not a secret. It's 70% corn, 16% soft winter wheat, and 14% malted barley. And Maker's Mark doesn't use any enzymes. It just uses the enzymes that are in the malted barley to break off the starch molecules into the sugar that is later being fermented and turned into the great bourbon. The cool thing about Maker's Mark is that they use their soft winter wheat from this region here. So all the soft winter wheat comes within 60 miles of the distillery. So once the grain is unloaded, we have it from the silos in here, and we have the very specialty of Maker's Mark, and that is the roller mill. Usually a distillery uses hammer mills, but this roller mill makes it a bit more coarse, and you have chunks in there. And the specialty about the chunks is that you have the proteins and all the bitter parts of the grain are inside these chunks, and the floury stuff that is soft and pleasing for the taste is being released. So this is what makes the Maker's Mark also very unique, and all the different grains have a different setting, so they also mill their malt and their wheat inside this malt mill. Now we're at the mash tub where the cooking is carried out, and here Maker's Mark also has a very special process because they don't want the bad parts out of their grain, but only the good parts to make a good bourbon. And what they do is they have the chunky corn, and they don't pressure cook it, and they only cook it at 100 degrees Celsius, and that means you only get the starch out of the corn and not the proteins that are bitter and would make their product worse. So you cook the corn at 100 degrees Celsius, then you add the soft winter wheat at 70 degrees Celsius, and in the end you add the malted barley at 60 degrees Celsius. And another very important ingredient is the yeast. The Maker's Mark yeast strain is over 120 years old, and Maker's Mark focuses a lot on the yeast strain to keep it pure. And this here is a tank for growing the yeast strain, and inside we have malted barley, water, and we also have hops. You know, hops from beer, and when you smell that, actually the whole room smells of hops, then it really reminds you of beer. And it actually tastes like beer. And what this hops does is it keeps out all the bad bacteria like vinegar or other stuff that's just floating around here in the air, and keeps the original yeast strain very pure for then later to have a good fermented product. So we're here at the Fermentis, where the alcohol is produced. This here is a fermenter made of cypress wood, very traditional, but it doesn't have that much effect on the flavor. And this here is a batch that has just been filled, and you can see that because you have a lot of foam in there. And if you taste it, then you taste that it's still very sweet. So this here is a second day batch, and you can see that because you have a lot of bubbles going up and forming these little worms, and this means that the alcohol is being formed, and while the alcohol is produced you have CO2 rising, and that's where the little bubbles come from. When you try this, it's already a bit sour. That means it's almost done. This here is the third day, and you can see that the batch is done, you sometimes get a little bubble rising, but we're now looking here at a product that has about 8.5% alcohol. And what is interesting is that we have the Maker's Mark cooling their beer, because if you have the beer rising to a too high temperature, the yeast is forming flavors that are not pleasant for the Maker's Mark, and that means you have flavors like spices and peppers, and Maker's Mark tries to get a flavor profile that is at the very front of your tongue, which is a bit sourness or sweetness and all the other flavors that Maker's Mark tries to get into their soft bourbon whiskey. Now we're at the distillation part, and because Maker's Mark has prepared their beer, their product, so well, they don't want to distill every last drop out of it, so they use a very not a high column still. It only has 17 layers and is 4.5 stories tall, so you don't distill it like very much like a vodka, so you have all the flavors left. Also, it's pure copper, so there are a lot of catalytic reactions going on, and you have a very good product. There's also a specialty at the very top of the still. You have a tube with a hat on it, and that creates a reflux in a room on the top that even makes the distillate a bit smoother. And what we're looking at here is not a very strong distillate. It only comes out at 120 proof. This is 60% alcohol, and yeah, I'll have a try. So this here is the low wines, and you can still smell and taste all of the mash or the beer. It's very, you have some kind of corn and some wheat in there. It's not as sharp as I know it from other distilleries. Okay, this here is now the high wines. They go into the doubler at the bottom, and then you go into looking at 130 proof. This is 65% alcohol, and let's have a try. Here I find some fruitiness in here behind all that alcohol, and also it's a bit oily and, I don't know, dry. It's almost like you have a coat on your mouth. So let's have a bit of a try. Oh, only for zipping. But still, the flavors are also quite strong. It's not just the alcohol. It's a huge, strong flavor. I'm excited to try the whiskey then. So now we're here at the warehouse, and Maker's Mark has 4-story tall warehouses. Some of the new ones are now 7 stories tall. The special thing about them is they are naturally aspirated. There is no artificial climate control. There is no heating, no cooling. And the other thing is that they dilute down their spirits to 55% alcohol. That is 110 proof, because they don't want everything from the barrel. Because if you have that strong solvent, the alcohol is a strong solvent, you get everything from the barrel, also some bitterness, and Maker's Mark doesn't want that. So they dilute it down to 55% alcohol. And another thing that they have is the warehouse rotation. Warehouse rotation is, they do it like that. They start off with all the barrels at the very top, and at the top you have about 10 degrees Celsius higher temperatures. So you have a lot of breathing of the casks. The alcohol gets into the staves, solves the vanilla and all the oak flavors and gets back into the casks. And when the cask is has sat there for 3 years, then it comes down here at the lower levels for another 2.25 years to 4 years. And how do you determine that length is that people go around, take samples, and they know the flavor profile they want to have for the Maker's Mark bourbon. So this time period is in variable length depending on how good the bourbon already is. Maker's Mark is very keen on their, very focused on their process, and that's why they also focus on the raw material of the cask. And here the staves have a special process, and that is they are matured for 9 months out in the weather. And that is because if you mature the wood for 9 months, then you get most of the tannins out of the wood, and this would make the whiskey bitter. So by washing it out through the weather, you don't have this bitterness, and you get a softer and greater Maker's Mark whiskey. When we're finished with the maturation of the Maker's Mark, we can either bottle this as a normal Maker's Mark, or we have the Maker's Mark 46. And that is a special maturation within the casks. And inside these casks, we have these staves that are being seared or toasted. And this is French wood, means it's a bit different than white oak, but it's also the searing and the toasting gives you these vanilla notes. This is only a maturation for a few weeks, and it gives the Maker's Mark 46 a special, unique flavor that is very nice. We're now in warehouse A, and this ceiling is made of blown glassware by David Chihuly. He did a lot of artwork for hotels in Las Vegas, and this artwork has some angels made into it, so that represents the angel's share, or how the guys at Maker's Mark call them, the angel's breath. And also the guys at Maker's Mark have a cool program called the Ambassador Program. You can go on to makersmark.com and become an ambassador. Then you have your own barrel with your name written on it, and when the barrel is ready, then the guys will send you an email, and you can come here to Maker's Mark and have your own barrel emptied, and then you can dip your own bottle to have it made from your own cask. And there's another trademark of Maker's Mark, and that is the wax seal. So this is about 200 degrees Celsius, so I'm just gonna dip it in. So I'm gonna have the normal stamp. If you're an ambassador, you get your own personalized stamp. So, my own Maker's Mark bottle. So I'm standing here with Greg Davis. You're already here at the distillery for 5 years, and you're the master distiller.
Yes.
In the distilling business for 25 years, so there's a lot of experience. And you're gonna help us and talk about the process and how quality integrates in that.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
It's always great to have you guys here. You're our #1 European market.
Okay, cool.
So, what we have here today, when we talk about bourbon, and there's a few things that just kind of make it interesting. What defines bourbon? When we think about this, you got to remember your 4 safety words: Kentucky, straight, bourbon, whiskey. Meaning that it's distilled here in Kentucky, aged here in Kentucky, and bottled here in Kentucky. So we all the distilleries, we're founded for a specific reason, and we focus on the quality triangle, as we like to say. So what is that? That's the water. Then that's going to be your formula, meaning for us at Makers, that's 70% corn, 16% soft red winter wheat, and 14% malted barley. Then we're going to talk about how we're going to prep it, how we're going to cook it. Because just selecting the grains is not enough. It has to be in your process. And it has to be in your process through the entire way, all the way from the beginning with the water to the bottle. And then we talk about fermentation. Those from there up are your keys, your quality. From there you can build and expand, and if so desire, you can experiment with. But you have to have your quality up front. And these are your 4 key things. Next, we can talk about distillation. And when you think about it, at Maker's Mark, we're using 100% solid copper column stills. We distill at a lower proof, one of the lowest proofs in the industry. That's because we're getting a full body, full flavor. When we talk about age and talk about maturation with our bourbons, what we're after is we're not after something that's related to the time. We're after the taste profile. And Makers is a mouth-watering, flavor-forward finish. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to take the Maker's Mark, the fully mature.
Second one on the left.
Yes. Now, when we smell, what I'd like for you to do is actually part your lips, and you're going to gently breathe in through the nose and exhale through your mouth. But to kind of give you an idea of just all the great aromas that are there with Maker's Mark, if you'll start your nose at the top of the glass and work your way in gently, and then down, you can pick up, it's kind of there's a light, ripe fruit ester, and then as you get down and in and almost on top of it, you get that real nice vanilla.
Yeah, I'm amazed about the fruitiness.
And then when you taste what's comfortable for you. Don't cheat a single taste bud. And then after you swallow, do a nice, long, soft, smooth exhale.
All right.
Because what we're looking for is, remember your bitter line?
Yeah.
We were talking about that?
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Where do you feel your taste buds firing off? Where do you feel the flavors?
I don't know, I have that, okay, I have that vanilla, yes. The caramel you have with almost every bourbon, but here I have, I don't know, a fruitiness. I kind of like that. Oh, that's nice.
So kind of, are you feeling it just kind of coating nice, just kind of nice general coating coming through here?
Yes, definitely.
With the focus really kind of right in there.
Right in the middle, as you said.
Welcome to Maker's Mark.
Yeah, that is, it's strange, it's not everywhere. I'm not sure, is that about the way I drank it, or I don't know if I...
You know, bourbon, don't get hung up on, oh, we have to drink it this way, we have to drink it that way. Bourbon is about enjoying how you see fit. Now, if you mix it with Coca-Cola, I'm going to give you a little grief. But if you make a good cocktail with it, that's okay. But do you notice the balance?
Yeah, it's light. I have to say
Crisp. It's a very crisp, clean finish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we're going to do next is when we're talking about maturation, we talked about the interesting thing was when we distilled the bourbon, we have a certain line that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like what we refer to as the grain line.
Okay.
Now, think of this at basically 100 proof, and let's just say this is 160 because you can't distill bourbon any higher than 160 proof, and you don't want bourbon below 100 proof because it'll be very oily, very, very bitter, won't be very good. So as this line moves up, you move up in flavor intensity.
Okay.
So the lower the proof, the heavier the distillate becomes.
Okay.
The higher the proof, the less flavor that's there. So think of it like this. Vodka is distilled at 190 proof, 192 proof. There's no flavor.
Yeah. So what I was seeing in the distillery is that you're looking at all of your quality, you get the flavors right, and then you don't want to distill them out because you already worked so hard in getting them.
Exactly. So what we're looking at is we're going to be right in here. We're going to be somewhere. Remember, we're at 130 proof off the doubler. So we know that we're going to get this great flavor profile there. Now, when we talk about maturation, what's interesting is think about this. Remember that we put it into the barrel down here, okay? So we're up at the top floor, so you get this faster aging effect.
With the high temperatures, a lot of breathing, getting into the staves, getting out of the staves.
Exactly. So that high temperature, you're pulling out a lot of that wood really fast. So what we're going to do then is we're actually going to rotate that barrel so that we can slow this process down.
So everything gets together and is finished.
Exactly. So that what we can get is we get this balance, if you will, of the spirit and the wood together. The wood is not the star, nor is the spirit or what came off the still the star.
Okay.
So to kind of put this in perspective, to kind of help taste you through this, if you will, we're actually going to taste the Maker's Mark under mature. So we're going to be somewhere right around in here.
Okay.
So that's going to be the very far left. Now I want you to smell this.
You still got the fruit?
Correct, but you didn't have that nice vanilla nose, did you? And
just a tiny bit, but not that much.
And then when you taste, I want you to pay attention to the flavor profile.
Yeah, you get the fruitiness, but also some sharp overtones. I get a bit in my nose now.
Exactly.
Okay,
it's real light and it's very thin.
Yeah.
And you felt it. You felt a little of it back here. You felt some of it up here, but you probably.
Yeah, it's a bit. I don't know. Reminds me a bit of the doubler.
Exactly.
But the doubler, I was amazed how good the doubler was because I had some white dog and not a good experience.
But remember, we're just now. See, we're roughly about right here. So we're not picking up a lot of that oak. We're not picking up a lot of that barrel yet.
Yeah, it tastes unfinished. I know the bourbon, so I know there is more to it. You don't have that much wood.
Exactly.
So,
now I'm going to purposely swing you, and now I'm going to show you what happens when we take Maker's Mark and we allow it to stay in the wood for too long. So we're actually going to taste the over mature. Now when you smell this, That's very deep. And it's very rich.
Very, but more caramel, less vanilla.
Yes. But when you taste, I want you to pay attention to where you feel this one after you taste the overmature.
Okay, yeah. No, it's in the back. But, oh, yeah. Chili catch. That's a chili catch. But I have the chili catch like right in front of the tongue, but you have that, I don't know, spicy stuff in the end. Like,
Exactly.
I think it's the tannins up. I don't know.
That's exactly right. You're picking up, now what you've done is you've allowed it to stay in the wood for so long that it's starting to break down all that, it's starting to break down everything that barrel has to offer. Now you're really pulling out all the tannins, which move the profile to the back.
Okay, yeah, but how did you get it? Did you forget it, cask, or?
No, we actually purposely do this.
You purposely did that.
We purposely will leave a little bit of maker's mark in the barrel for this is roughly about 9.5 years of age.
Okay.
For us. Just to show everybody the uniqueness in how we're determining that flavor profile that ultimately is maker's mark, which is that flavor forward, mouth-watering finish.
But I have to say, I like the over-matured better than the under-matured.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's not, okay, it's not the maker's mark profile, but I would say some people like that.
That's correct. And
So-
a lot of people that do, they like those tannins. They like that big oak. And they should look for older bourbons.
Okay.
But for us at Makers, we want this balance. Because
Okay.
for us, it's about coming down here, defining our quality, where everybody else does all these different formulas and things like this. Maker's Mark, we have a linear model. We only do it one way. We only have the one water source. We only have the one formula. We only have the one way to prep it and cook it. We only have the Samuel's family yeast.
Mm-hmm.
We only distill at the low proof, 120, 130.
Mm-hmm.
120, and then 130 on the doubler. And then for us, when we talk about time or age, we're not concerned about this time. We're only concerned, we know that somewhere in this area,
That's where your flavor profile is.
our flavor profile will be there. That's why we don't put an age statement on our bourbon. We never have. We know somewhere between 5 3/4 to almost 7 years of age, that's where we're going to define what is Maker's Mark.
Okay, so that's like your trademark. You have that balance, and you want to aim that for. So, okay, that's fine. That's really good.
Now, we're going to take things a different direction now altogether,
Okay.
because we talked about what we can kind of do quality-wise and the experimenting stuff around with your proofs and how you filter it, and all these different things, whether you chill filter it or not, or charcoal filter or whatever. We do not chill filter our bourbon.
So this is just normal filtering.
This is just
getting
normal.
the flakes out.
What we do is we carbon treat the regular Maker's Mark. So that takes care of that chill haze. So if you take a bottle of Maker's Mark, put it in the freezer, it's not going to turn all cloudy. It's going to still stay clear.
Okay.
Now, with Maker's, the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to taste the cask strength.
Cask strength. Okay.
Straight from the barrel. Now, this is what you were talking about. This is no filtration.
No filtration.
Because you're only as good as what's in that barrel.
Okay, so we filled the barrel at 55 ABV. So how much is left after these years?
This is going to be somewhere around 56, 57.
56, 57
percent ABV. Now, what I'd like for you to do with this is we need to taste just a little less than what we have because of the high ABV. But what I want you to really pay attention to is how you feel it on your palate. Because when you smell this,
This goes into candy or what?
yes, it's very candy-like, very candy caramel. And then when you taste,
Seriously, this is cask strength. It's pretty mild cask strength.
Exactly. And what we're telling you here is people associate higher proof with higher quality. That's not true. You can get great flavors, and where do you notice the difference? Where do you feel it?
It's not, I wouldn't say higher quality, it's just a bit more intense, I would say. You just get a bit more, but also, yeah, there is a bit of more ABV in that, so some people might say it's a bit more attacking, so, but I like it.
Do you notice how it's a very coating effect?
In the aftertaste, yes. In the aftertaste, but I only have now. Before I had the coating effect on the tongue, but now I have it in my
whole mouth.
The whole mouth. I got it in the top a lot.
Yes, the roof. Exactly. That's because we didn't filter out anything. That's all the naturally occurring sugars and compounds that we extract from the wood. So that viscosity is very different. I'm like you, on the roof of my mouth, on my teeth, all over my tongue. It's just a very coating effect, but it still has the intensity forward.
Yeah, it's strange. I didn't know that you could be that precise to get a whiskey that is just forward. I didn't know that. That is really interesting.
And again, it's not, for us, we follow the one linear model. That's it. We don't get into experimenting and doing all the crazy stuff with different proofs and different ages and everything like that. That's why we rotate our barrels. That's why we start at the top. That's why we age the wood. It's the process. It's about using the roller mill. It's about using a low, slow cook profile. It's about using 100% copper column distillation. It's about those low proofs. It's about aging. Everything that we do is about keeping that flavor forward.
So, how did you get to that formula? Is that over the years, or?
That was Bill Samuel Sr.'s vision. That this is his identity. This is his process. And as a distiller, my job is to preserve what's put forth before me.
So this is the legacy of what was Maker's Mark back in the 30s.
This is exactly how it started.
Okay, so nothing changed over the years.
Nothing has changed over the years.
Okay, so another question. I see you building out there. I got the feel that demand is increasing for Maker's Mark. How do you cope with that?
Well, that's a very good question, because yes, we are expanding, but we're not taking one piece of equipment and making it this big around. We're doing an exact copy of that, because when you look at the big environment, what we're concerned about is the micro environment. And yes, we could took one of our mash cookers and then made bigger fermenters so that we pumped multiple mash cooks into a fermenter and made these big giant fermenters, but that's not us.
Okay.
That changes the microclimate, that changes the identity of what is Maker's Mark. So we're actually just taking a copy and making another copy. So we take this exact cooker and we're making a third cooker. We copied our still. We're putting in a third still that looks exactly like it, exact same size, exactly dimensions, because we don't want to change anything. Okay. We don't want it to change our process all the way down to the micro level when we talk about yeast and all those flavors that are generated during fermentation.
So we're looking at, like, in, let's say, a few decades, we're looking at
oh yeah,
the house is like getting 5 longer. It's getting longer and longer.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, but with such a great product, I wouldn't change anything either.
Now, we have one last thing to taste, and that's going to be the Maker's 46. Now, we did decide we wanted to play around here a little bit, but not necessarily with the proof, but what you can do with the wood.
Okay.
And so with the Maker's 46, we have this seared French oak stave. Now this is aged 18 months.
18 months.
18 months before we make this thin wafer board out of it. And what we're trying to achieve there is we're naturally allowing the resins and your tannins to kind of drop off. But an interesting thing happens as you hit the 9 month, just like on our American white oak is when we make our barrels at 9 months. Well, we take this on out to 18 months and you get this higher peak of vanilla or vanillin.
Okay.
So that's why we age it for 18 months
Okay.
for this stave.
Where do you age it? Do you age it in America or do you age it over in Europe?
We age over in Europe. We have everything cut, and then when it's time for the process, we'll bring it on over.
Okay.
It makes sense to leave the big raw chunk of stave over there and let the shrinkage over there, then ship everything over here and let America go through. But what is interesting is we now take fully matured Maker's Mark bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to empty that barrel out. That's that fully matured Maker's Mark bourbon. Mm-hmm. And we're going to insert 10 of those French oak staves down inside there. And then we're going to put that same fully matured Maker's Mark bourbon right back into that barrel for another 8 to 11 weeks. But the kicker is the process is only during the winter.
Only during the winter.
Now
So
when you smell this,
ooh. There's that candy again, but a bit different.
yes,
But it's like, I don't know, is it Christmas cake or
a slight
cinnamon?
spice, it's cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
And then when you taste, what I want you to do is I want you to think about how Maker's Mark was a very mouth-watering, crisp, clean finish. I want you to just kind of wait for this one.
Yep. It's, you have a bit more spiciness in there.
Mm-hmm.
But oh, now I get the dryness, all that coating effect again. Yeah, but now it happens on my tongue. I don't know why, but it happens on my tongue.
Are you do you feel something
that-
kind of concentrating right in this area
Mhm.
and kind of right there?
Yeah, definitely. But there's a bit coating effect, but also I would describe it as Christmas cake. Definitely Christmas cake.
Well, that's kind of we're on the same. It's just a different descriptor, but yes, it's a nice, almost cinnamon-like spice that again comes forward on the palate.
But when you combine it with vanilla and caramel, that just reminds you, and that sweetness just reminds you of Christmas. So it's probably the cinnamon, but in combination, oh yeah, I like it. I like it. It's Christmas time.
So again, we've got a great balance here.
Okay.
You see through it. At no time is the alcohol the star or the distillate coming off the still, nor is the wood the star. It's just we're taking the balanced state, what is Maker's Mark. With 46, we're just enhancing it. And then with the cask strength, you're just getting a big, bold version of that.
Yeah.
But again, what is it that defines Maker's Mark? Flavor forward.
Flavor forward, yeah. I didn't know that you could produce it like the way to just define everything in your mouth. That's almost like, I don't know, invading my mouth. But it's good.
In a good way,
like
exactly. So, and that's what's so unique about Maker's Mark. You can go try all the bourbons you want, but you won't find one that will finish forward on the palate like Maker's.
Yeah, that is great. So, thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming out today.
Great stuff you had here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you like this video, then please give me a thumbs up. And if you ever plan to come to Kentucky, don't miss Maker's Mark. It's a great place. It's a great campus around here. I enjoyed it very much. Also, enjoy the whiskeys here. They always taste better where they're made. And thanks for watching.